Joining us now for our monthly segment focusing on Philippine-UK trade ties is British Chamber of Commerce's Executive Director, Chris Nelson. Chris, hi. Good to see you. Welcome back to Market Edge.
Good morning. Thank you. It's very nice to be back on Market Edge again.
Chris, just to clarify, UK is no longer part of the European Commission, right? So the visit by the President von der Leyen no longer involves UK interests, correct?
Yeah, correct. The UK exited from the EU at the end of December 2020. However, of course, we have close ties with the European Union, not involved with the visit. And of course, we've just recently launched via the British Embassy and supported by ourselves our new trading scheme, which is DCTS, the Developing Countries Trading Scheme, which obviously now replaces the GSP Plus, which was what we were trading under when we were part of the European Union. So, no, we won't be part of that, but obviously we remain close ties, and as we do, we work very closely with the European Chamber in the Philippines.
And the UK has a lot of activities and initiatives going on as well. You mentioned DCTS, which is supposed to replace GSP. I think about a week or 2 weeks ago, we also had Mobilist, which I understand is also an initiative of the UK government that's supposed to help local companies here with an ESG push, go public with their IPO journeys. I wonder, with all of these initiatives, how do you see our trade numbers going forward this year?
Well, we see obviously growth going forward. I mean, we've already at a high level, all-time high of 2.4 billion. That's joint. It's actually equal between the two countries. That's 1.2 billion on each side. We think DCTS will be a distinctive boost. Our ambassador, Laura Beaufils, when she did the launch, estimated it could be a saving for Philippine companies of 1.4 billion in pesos. And we think that will be a great opportunity. It's over 90% of goods going into the UK from the Philippines will be tariff-free or tax-free. Regarding Mobilist, I think that's another great initiative. This comes under FCDO. This relates, of course, to climate change, which obviously is a significant initiative. And as you rightly said, it's helping companies both on that side for ESG and also for their public listing. And if you come back and see all the activities, as you know, we've just had recently Secretary Pasquale, was part of the Philippine Investment Roadshow, was in London. I think one of the big focuses, of course, was renewable energy, where the UK is one of the leaders in that sector.
All right. Let's talk about how robust the pipeline of new investors is. You've got lots of activities, lots of seminars and webinars going on. But at the end of the day, this is really the list that everybody wants to know. Are we going to be attracting new investors, new names, new brands coming into the Philippines, maybe looking to set up shop here or expand further? And I know I ask you this question every month. I'm sure you know the question, Chris.
I do, and my response will be the same.
Will be the same.
This amount of interest. So first of all, let me highlight some of the key points. We continue to highlight to the UK companies the benefits here. I just like to note that the Philippines has ratified RCEP, which I think is a great push for that, because it means the Philippines not only is an important market, but it's an opportunity to get into, obviously, that very large trading block. So I know you keep asking, and we won't be the first to play it, but there has been a lot of interest. I think the Philippine Investment Roadshow, also not only in renewable energy, but obviously there was interest also in the consumer market. And let's not forget, we had the Great British Festival this year, which we brought back. That was in March. That was a great success, and we're looking to do another festival again. Hopefully that will be in January 2024.
I asked about the FTA, which is always the question, because I know that the UK is now planning preliminary talks on a trade deal with Taiwan. So maybe they could put the Philippines on the agenda. You mentioned energy could be a segment where we could see more collaboration. I wanted to ask you where you think the other pockets of opportunities are for collaboration between UK and the Philippines. You mentioned energy. Anything else? Maybe manufacturing, more agriculture. I know you've been focused on agri because you meat, pork. You know, we get a lot of our pork from UK.
Look, I think also, if I'd like to just highlight back on that point, also to the sonar, obviously food security is a key issue. We're talking about the Philippine economy. Obviously, inflation did improve in June, down to 5.4%. We've been very active. We just had, obviously, two of the largest meat importers going to the UK for an event. And I think food and food supply is going to be a key focus. In that context, I just highlight one point that obviously President Marcos put up, which was the Anti-Smuggling Agricultural Act, which we support. I think that's a very important initiative and goes along with the fact that we want to see and develop very close ties. So, yes, food production. We see continuing interest in the consumer sector. The Philippines is very vibrant in that sector. And, of course, let's not forget the Philippines has obviously the growth figures, although it's moderated, obviously, from, I think it's now over 6%, it's still showing a very attractive market. So I think if I could highlight food, definitely, and our efforts, obviously, on pork and meat, and linked to that, obviously, the consumer goods sector as a total.
So you're not seeing any indication at all of weakness, for example, in sentiment among businesses in the UK, investors here in the Philippines? I mean, you know, the UK's private sector grew at its weakest pace in 6 months. You've got the UK economy expected to fall further behind euro area next year. There's a lot of weakness on the macroeconomic side, but when you talk to the corporates, are they still bullish and gung-ho?
Yeah, I think on the corporate side, I think you've got to look overall where it's going. I mean, the UK, and it's a challenge, as you know, and it's been on your program across the world, is inflation. We're seeing that moderate in the US. UK inflation came down to 7.9. It's still obviously relatively high compared to the others, because this is obviously going to drive interest rates. And I think what they see, of course, is once obviously the UK and UK companies are looking, and they see that Southeast Asia is a very important market. They see the fact that the Philippines is starting to recover well from the pandemic impact. I mean, there are still challenges, and of course, inflation has moderated, but still below the BSP target rate of 2.2 to 4%. However, the economy does look very interesting. And I think, obviously, the efforts to highlight the growth sectors, that makes it very interesting to UK companies. So, yes, I think UK companies, and I think the efforts of ourselves and obviously the embassy to continue to show the developments. And let me just emphasize the further liberalization of the Philippine economy, which we continue to push.
I was going to mention that. I wanted to end there. You know, a year after, you know, it's been 1 year for President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. I mean, are British companies or investors here doing better today than they did a year ago? What else do you need from the Philippine government, you know, to help attract more of British investors to the country?
Well, I think the Sonar speech highlighted a lot of good points. I mean, let me just make the comment. I mean, he emphasized in the very first Sonar they want to make an investment destination. We wholeheartedly endorse that. We were encouraged by the second Sonar. We particularly want to see the emphasis on ease of doing business. Therefore, for example, one of them is obviously making the ease of paying taxes, simplifying the process, investment in digitalization. We particularly welcome all that and the investments that go into that structure. One thing we'd emphasize in that context, because there's going to be a lot more emphasis, is cybersecurity, which he mentioned as well. So I think there is more encouragement. I don't want to mitigate the challenges, because obviously they're trying to manage the economy with inflation, but that's obviously, if that comes down, and obviously that then will have an impact on interest rates. But in summary, we've seen a good basis here. I think the Sonar reinforced. And what we'd like to see is obviously further efforts in terms of ease of doing business, further opening up the economy, because what we want to see, all as we know, is further increases in foreign direct investment.
All right. On that optimistic note, Chris, always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for the time and for the insights this morning. Have a great week ahead.
You too, and thank you very much, and to all your viewers.
All right. Now, before we go,